chance to hear it, so let her tell it. People on the streets say Sabrina speaks. Tune into the show, she will let you know. Tell all your friends and family. Real talk is no joke. You get the news straight up from grassroots and concerns. You hear with some people gone. So tell all your friends to tune in to the
Good evening,
show.
Cayman. I'm Sabrina Turner, and welcome to Sabrina Speaks, your daily dose of clarity, truth, and community insights. Every weekday from 5 to 6:30 p.m., we're tackling the issues that affect you, from national headlines to grassroots concerns. Whether you're in traffic or winding down your day, this is your chance to hear it straight and speak your truth. So buckle up, Cayman. We're not holding back.
This is the show. We gotta let you know. Now we got to go.
And now here's Sabrina.
Well, good afternoon, everybody, and happy Tuesday. And should I officially say goodbye to September? OMG, it is the end of September already. Welcome to another episode of Sabrina Speaks, right here on CMRTV.com. We are the voices of the islands and conversations for the world, and the podcast where voices rise, stories unfold, and inspiration takes center stage. I'm your host, Sabrina, and it's so good to be back with you. Now, today, I aim to dive into a topic that touches every corner of our islands, from the pulpit to the plaza, from the small shop to the hotel lobby. It's about Sundays, not just the sacred rhythm of rest and worship, but the laws that shape what can and cannot happen in our economy or on the Lord's Day. For generations, everyone will know that Sundays here in the Cayman Islands have been a day of reverence, a time to pause, a time to reflect and reconnect with faith, family, and self. But as our islands grow, as tourism expands, and as our nightlife stretches into the early hours, a question quietly echoes: should our Sunday trade laws evolve too? Now, let's unpack the facts, hear from our community, and ask the questions that matter. Because laws aren't just words on paper. They're reflections of who we are and who we're also becoming. So I invite you to join me in on this discussion, 345-936-8255. I love all of you who call, who even comment, but let's keep it on topic. And possibly be as concise as possible so that others can get a chance to participate. You can also WhatsApp me as well. Just WhatsApp me. So here we go. I will take a short break, and when we come back, I'll break down what Sunday matters. I'll go into even we got some breaking news out of the Philippines. We got persons who are also enjoying their birthday today, and huge birthday celebrations is all going on. So I'll be right back after this short message. So please stick with me.
Infrastructure is more than roads and buildings. It's our lifeline.
From pioneers who paved the first paths to today's crews and engineers who keep us going.
They power hospitals, connect families, and help us after natural disasters.
Let's honor the people behind Cayman's progress.
Nominate someone who built or maintained our Cayman Islands
At gov.ky/YSCH. Click Nominate today.
Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome back. Thank you for tuning in. This is another episode of Sabrina Speaks. And just before we get into the segment and just, do the birthday shout outs and all, we got breaking news out of the Philippines as I pretty much go out live here. It is, we're getting news that there's been a 6.9 magnitude earthquake that rocked central Philippines, sending people running into the streets. What part of the Philippines? That is in the northeast Bago city in Cebu province, where there's estimated of 90,000 people who reside there. Now, it is said that based on early reports coming out of there, that power went out in Cebu. And, the true extent of damage or even casualties at this time is still unknown. Now, we all know where the Philippines is located. It's considered one of the most disaster-prone countries because it's often hit by earthquakes and volcanic eruptions due to its sheer locations on the Pacific. That's what they have it called, like the Ring of Fire. So yeah, they're prone to seismic faults around the ocean and definitely surrounding there. So the information keeps coming out. We know that we have a large Filipino community here in the Cayman Islands, and we're going to keep you up to speed with what's happening there. But yes, right now reports coming out of a 6.9 magnitude hitting the Philippines, and the images are coming in, videos as well. It is, we've even gotten some information early. Ooh, this just came in, that it is said 6 people, killing at least 6 people and injuring several others. So we're getting early reports that there have been some deaths in the Philippines, collapsing walls, killing at least 6 people and injuring several others. So yeah, this will come in, and based on the extent of the damage, we will definitely let you know. As once it comes into me, I'll definitely share it with you. But welcome to this edition of Sabrina Speaks. I'm so happy to be here with you this evening. Let's sing. Say happy birthday. Oh yes, to Miss Adonia Barnes. Happy birthday to you, my dear. You have been lighting up. Facebook today. It's been going crazy with all of the birthday shout outs to you. And happy birthday to you. I hope that you're spending, having a good day, and that everyone is taking good care of you as usual. 79. Oh my gosh. And you're still going strong. You're a joke. I really love your fancy hats and stuff you have over there at your store. Congratulations to you. And I hope you have a good birthday. That's for sure. Happy birthday. And let's say huge congratulations. Yes, one is celebrating a birthday, Miss Francine Jackson. Yes, congratulations to Miss Francine. The United Church of Jamaica and Grand Cayman honored Miss Francine Jackson, yes, on Sunday at the Moderator's Communion service with a commemorative plaque for lifetime service to the church and to the community. Yes, so we want to give her congratulations. That's an image of the plaque, and she's definitely making waves there. Now, the Right Reverend Colin Cohen spoke of her humility and graciousness and charm, and his long association with her and her husband, the late Vernon Jackson. So congratulations to Miss Francine on this recognition, and we're showing our praises, of course, to our people. Now, once I know it, I'm going to share it here for sure. Once I know it, I am definitely going to share it with all of you. And I'm so happy. Again, you see the birthday wishes going out to Miss Adonia from those who are just tuning in, and welcome to everyone. And huge congratulations to you, Miss Francine. Yeah. That's what a community is. We feel and we share. We should be celebrating with everyone. How it is in our accomplishments. We should be proud. We should be proud of those. Now we're seeing exactly some headlines that are making its way. Go on to CMR.com, their Facebook page, and you will see today's headlines there. And we're seeing where mischievousness is happening in our community. It's to each his own, but that is what I want to share with you. And everything comes with a consequence. So I just want to bring it live to you with stories that matter. So yes, let's get right into the topics at hand. Hi, Lisa. Good evening to you. And you're sharing. Yes. I'm quite sure she will appreciate that. Now let's talk about Sundays. As we continue to build this space, I want to not pretty much hold up a lot right here this evening because I can see this conversation becoming rather topical. And I encourage you to join in the conversation. Again, 936-8255 to weigh in. I would love to hear your opinion on this subject matter and where are we going as we evolve as a society. Good evening, Sonia. It's always a pleasure to have you here with us. And again, commenting is the key. Makes me feel like I'm not alone. Now let's talk about Sundays. For many of us, hi, Damien. Good evening. How are you? Hope you're having a good evening. For many of us, Sunday is sacred, and it's a day of rest. It's a day of worship, of family, and a time to slow down. Some of us dress up and some of us gather, whether it's in church pews, go to brunch, or on a soca, or whatever type of boat cruise. Or some of you may choose to just lounge back in a hammock. More than likely, that's where you'd find me, somewhere, be it around the kitchen table or under a shady mango tree. It's a rhythm that we've inherited to pause, as we're protecting our own sanity, our own peace of mind. That's who we are. But here's the question. It has been asked about this because I'm seeing more on social media that you're getting some of the stores now advertising, oh, we're open on Sundays and all that sort of stuff. Today, we're going to decode all of that. You've heard right here on this show. Even yesterday evening, it was loud. Persons from various parts of our islands complaining about the noise, and we're hearing about a noise ordinance act and all of that. I got some myths around that as well, and it's gonna blow your mind. Who is responsible? Who do you call on? It's very, very interesting as I prepared for today's topic what was discovered. But there's a question. In today's Cayman, is Sunday also a missed opportunity? We're living in a time where you can see where cost of living is rising. We're seeing expanding tourism, and we're hearing about diversifying our tourism offerings and all of that sort of stuff. What does that mean for our day of rest, Sunday? And when you look at even the shifting generational values, now our nightlife, we have found, stretches into Sunday mornings sometimes, legal or not. It is a reality. What's converted as the after party, however you want to delve into that. And our visitors expect 7 days service. And our small businesses are fighting to survive. So why is it in 2025, do our laws still say no trade? There's a caveat on Sundays unless you fall on an exception list. And deeper still, who does these laws serve? Who do they silence? So let me ask this, Cayman, for those of you who are joining me. If Sunday is so sacred, how do we honor that in a society where several sometimes means, survival sometimes means working 7 days a week? We understand the uniform service, we understand the healthcare industry and all of that sort of stuff, right? But can we still be a God-fearing nation if our laws don't reflect the realities of our people? Can we? And then when you look at even Seventh-day Adventist business owners who worship on Saturdays, can you say that they have been unfairly penalized under the Sunday lockdowns based on what type of business they operate? Now, if we claim religious freedom, why does 1 day of worship dictate economic restrictions for all? That's just a general question, right? And these questions are probing. These are probing questions that should be on the forefront or cause you to really look at it totally different. Now, these aren't just policy questions, They're questions of fairness, they're questions of faith, and they're questions of identity. But then what about our very own Constitution? Does our Constitution protect all Caymanians equally? Or are we preserving a selective tradition? Does the Constitution protect all Caymanians equally? Or are we preserving a selective tradition? You can possibly even ask the question, is there any political will to change the Sunday trade law? Or are our leaders afraid of losing votes if this subject even comes up? Maybe you may be asking, can we even trust our elected officials to act boldly and fairly? Or are they choosing silence over service? These are the questions I want to sit with you. And if you feel moved to call in, by all means, 936-8255 is the number to call. You can also comment right here, because our beautiful Cayman Islands is at a crossroads, whether or not you want to believe it or not. And a new generation is asking for flexibility. Families are also asking for survival. And businesses are asking for fairness. And the public is asking for the truth. The truth in who we are. What are we preserving? Where do we go? How do you actually work out the balance? Is there a balance? Can a balance be reached? Or do we have to say sacrifice survival versus culture? But I'm hoping with what I'm about to share with you this evening, as we go into some of the legislations, that it actually brings some clarity to this very same subject, okay? And you can form your own opinions. I'm only here to give you the facts based on what I've found. So let's ground ourselves into some of those facts. And what does the law actually say? Like, who enforces it? And what's really happening on the ground, right? So now that we've pretty much laid a foundation and we've asked the hard questions about faith, about fairness, about the future, again, let's look at the facts. What does the law actually say about Sunday trade here in the Cayman Islands, right? Now, I've done some digging myself, and the Sunday Trade Act of 2023 revision is clear. Most retail businesses are prohibited, meaning they're not allowed, from operating on Sundays. Now, that includes clothing stores, hardware shops, and general retail outlets. But there are some exceptions, and some businesses are allowed to open. I did my own type of digging, to be honest with you, and I pulled up the Sunday Trade Act, and it was amazing of who these exclusions or what type of businesses this exclusions included. Miss Rose. Hi, good evening, Miss Rose. Getting a little more time to listen. Oh, thank you. Thank you. Shaka Zulu, good evening to you, my dear. How are you? Welcome. I'm always happy to see you. And Miss Rose is sharing her greetings to Miss Francine. Damian Charles. Hi, good evening. How are you? It's good to have you here with us. Now, as I was saying, keeping it into the Sunday Trade Act, because these are some of the questions that are being asked, right? When you look at this, at the short form, and this is all based on research, the Cayman Islands generally prohibits business from opening on Sundays with specific exemptions listed in the Act. And I'm going to tell you what those exemptions are. This Act, as it is a Sunday Trade Act 2023 revision, and I'm reading this straight from the schedule, businesses involved in the provision of goods and services primarily to tourists, including establishments selling souvenirs, duty-free items, tourist accommodations, water sports operators, golf courses, and businesses involved in sightseeing activities, druggist shops and dispensaries, restaurants, retail businesses involved primarily in the sale of food items and beverages where such an establishment is less than 4,000 square feet, hairdressers and beauty salons, airplanes and shipping offices, establishment for the sale of motor fuel or oils in relation to the sale of those items, motor vehicle repair shops or service stations in relation to the sale of those items and of spare parts for motor vehicles, establishments governed by any law for the time being in force in the islands regulating the sale of intoxicating liquor in relation to the sale of intoxicating liquor, establishments engage in the sale or supply of funeral caskets or flowers in relation to the sale or supply of those items. 11, establishment for the sale of victuals. Now that's food supplies, ground provisions, that sort of stuff. Those type of stores or other necessaries required for a ship or aircraft on arrival or immediately before departure from a port or airport in the islands in relation to the sale of those items. 12, establishments concerned in the retail of motor cars, motorcycles or bicycles, or in the rental or charter of boats in relation to such rental of charters. Establishments concerned in the provisions of such essential services as may prescribed by cabinet by order. Establishments engage in the conduct of public film exhibitions in accordance with the hours specified in the Film Exhibition Control Act of 2015. Okay? Ladies and gentlemen, when you listen to those 14 businesses that are exempted, meaning they can all operate, that speaks volumes. Grocery stores under 4,000 square feet can open. It's a matter of choice, along with all 14 of those things that I just outlined. Are you listening to what I'm saying? Did you really hear what I just said? How wide that is? But hold on. These exemptions reflect essential needs and tourism demands. But many of the local entrepreneurs, especially Seventh-day Adventists who worship on Saturdays and own business, and Sunday is their only viable day to trade, and yet the law says no. Unless they fall under selling of souvenirs or food, a regular clothing store on Sunday cannot open. So who's enforcing this? Okay. Again, Sunday trade in short form, the core of the law is that most businesses are required to close on Sunday unless you fall under those 14 descriptive items that I just read out. And those exemption of this artificial list of specific types of premises is exempted and allowed to trade. And those are based on a below of a certain square footage. And, these typical businesses that are exempted are like pharmacies, gas stations, restaurants, businesses that cater to tourism, such as those in hotels. And again, the list of exemptions that I just read out. Now, the Act in 2023 has been revised, and this did not introduce a wholesale change to Sunday trading laws. Now, I'm going to go into, you say, well, what about playing of music and all that sort of stuff? Hold on. And who's supposed, if somebody is caught breaking the law, I'm getting there. I'm getting there. A key update occurred back in 2015, which liberalized some restrictions following public consultation, meaning that list of 2023 was made based on public consultation of 2015. Now, penalties for non-compliance, including those, excluding those who are exempted, all of those persons who are not permitted, the owner operators commits an offense if they operate, conduct business that falls outside that exempted list. And the exact penalties for breaches on Sunday or the trading laws are not specified, but are subject to legal enforcement. So when you look at it, the general offenses under the Cayman Islands law can carry severe penalties based on exactly how well a case file is managed, if they're even caught, and such as substantial fines or even imprisonment can be levied based on the judicial system. Now, that's depending on the severity and the nature of the breach. And these penalties would be determined by, of course, a grand court if the matter were to be brought before it. And listen, who else? The Department of Commerce and Investment. Yeah. DCI as well is also the relevant authority for inquiries and enforcement related to this law. They all actually help the Trade and Business Board and for this act, this board, to actually uphold the gatekeepers. They are also the gatekeepers, but I will say a little bit more. DEH also has a responsibility as well in regards to noise. Yeah. I'm coming, man. I'm coming. Let me read some of these. Good evening, Iva. How are you? I'm hoping that you're having a good evening. Dean, the Sunday law is a part of the One World Order agency, and all countries under Jewish Catholic law are being designed to make this religion superior than any other religion. Damian Henry, interesting. If you didn't know before, now you know. Okay? So the question is again, who enforces it? It goes back to the Department of DCI. Me going there actually forced me to pull up the Music and Dance Control Act. And that was rather interesting with my findings. I actually pulled up the law because DCI, the Department of Commerce and Investment, is responsible for licensing and enforcing. And trade officers, which I will read directly from the law, the director of DCI as well, and the police have the authority to inspect, investigate, and issue fines. But here's the reality. Is enforcement consistent or inconsistent? Some businesses operate quietly, we've noticed, yet others are penalized. And many simply don't even know where the line is drawn. Many simply just don't know. So, if the gatekeepers are turning a blind eye, what is the point of the gate? Is it smoking mirrors? Is it only a small sector of the Cayman Islands that's really into preserving our culture, or in denial that we're evolving and generational changes are imminent, and pretty much you have a law that the exemption is, it's by choice already. If we say one thing in law, but do another thing in practice, are we living under law or under illusion? And if a Seventh-day Adventist business owners are being disproportionately affected Where is the fairness? Where is the constitutional protection of religious freedom then? Think about that. But stick a pin 1 minute. Stick a pin. When I pulled up the Music and Dancing Control Act, that pretty much includes and regulates when music and dancing are permitted on a licensed premises. And that Copyright Act that is based on the UK's 1988 Act, meaning that's the foundation of this piece of legislation, which protect original music works. So it goes deeper than just playing of music. The law was amended back in 2022 that lift the Sunday ban on music in standalone bars, therefore allowing background music and dancing from 11 a.m. to 11:59 at night, with Christmas Day and Good Friday remaining restricted unless Cabinet extends an order, and we know that that has been done in the past, okay? For businesses' use of music, a commercial music license is required, as personal streaming services like Spotify are not permitted. But it gets better. Under the Music and Dancing Control Law, the purpose of this law is that it acts to govern the playing of music and dancing on licensed premises. But Sunday music in specific, in the 2022 amendment, that lifted the Sunday ban that allowed standalone bars and certain other licensed venues to play low background music during restricted hours. This is all going to come full circle with some of the conversation that ensued right here on this platform, okay? Christmas Day and Good Friday. Now, these still remain the only 2 days where music and dancing are restricted, with specific limitations on volume, and even that, on volume and timing, even on other days. Now, when it comes to noise level, music must be of a low background nature and not audible outside the premises. And here was it. You're not supposed to hear it outside the premises. Now, this is for licensed premises. What does that do in a residential community? Interesting. Entertainment. Trade officers, the police, and the Department of Commerce and Investment, DCI, are responsible for enforcing the law. Hold on. I gotta pull up the law. I am going to pull up that law so I read it directly from the law. And these powers and officers under the Music and Dancing Control Act of 2024, Section 8, this is subsection 11A, duties and powers of trade officers, 11A subsection 1. Trade officers have the duty to enforce this act and to assist the board and have the authority to carry out such instructions as may be given by the board or the director of the Department of Commerce and Investment or the director's delegate in accordance with this act. Section 2. A trade officer has all powers, privileges, rights, and immunities, of a constable. Let me read that over again. A trade officer has all the powers, privilege, rights, and immunities of a constable when carrying out the trade officer's duty under this act, including the powers to enter and search premises set out in Section 33 of the Liquor Licensing Act 2019 provision. Do you understand what I'm going in this? And let me go down. Powers and duties of the commissioner and director. The director of the Department of Commerce and Investment and the commissioner of police and every person acting under the commissioner's authority shall assist the board in administering this act and shall have all powers, privileges, rights, and immunities in respect of licensed premises under this act as they have in respect of licensed premises under the Liquor Licensing Act of 2019, including the powers set out in Section 33 of the Act to enter and search premises. Ladies and gentlemen of Sabrina Speaks, I have read that out from legislation. And again, I am saying I am not making our MPs' lives, I'm not giving them a free pass. I am just being very honest, open, sincere, and hope that you will understand and connect the dots. In not one piece of those two legislations have I heard anything about an MP. There is nothing in law that says an MP, your representative. Please do not misunderstand. I am trying to educate you. It will all make sense. You hear us talk here all along. You have the operational arm of government and you have the elected arm. Everything that I've read is not what I'm saying. And there's a reason why I'm reading it from law. So it now what Sabrina say? It's what's in law. We need more accountability to address some of the nuances, if not all of the nuances in our community. Yes, you're saying, but I'm trying to get a hold of my MP because I'm being disrespected at the police when I go to make reports. Hold on. Even if you go to the MP at this stage, they got hope that the police listen to them too. They got hope that the DLP and their officers, who have the same rights as a constable based on the nature of the complaint, to actually act in accordance to your report. So if the gatekeepers are turning a blind eye, and in this case, even ignoring civilians, what's the point of having the gate? What's the point? But there's more. Yeah, there is more. Because when you're talking about noise in your community, and we have heard that repeated here on this platform, right? We've heard it. We don't have a noise ordinance act, you know. No. The Cayman Islands does not have a single piece of legislation that is called a Noise Ordinance Act, okay? Instead, but it's covered, laws governing noise pollution are included under, and this was a big kicker for me, and I now know why it makes sense. It's covered under several pieces of legislation, but most notably, the Town and Communities Law. And I know we've heard that law cited here a number of times before. And also the Public Health Act. This is where our DEH enforcement officers come in. Yep. Enforcement is primarily handled by the Department of Environmental Health. And guess who comes up again? The Royal Cayman Islands Police Service. The Town and Communities Law, this law gives authority to environmental health officers to require that a noise nuisance can be abated or stopped. lowered or stopped. So this goes to the caller that was trying to get the representative from West Bay North for quite some time, has been reaching out to a number of their elected MPs about a specific location, and I'm quite sure there are probably more, but specifically so that it makes sense of those persons who were in the district of West Bay, where it is alleged that there's loud music. It's a nuisance to all of the neighbors. There's been allegations that even the smoking of contraband is going on and their kids are in the yard. So we can see right here, right now, where this are multiple government agencies, operational arm of government, again, are really the ones who are supposed to enforce the law. Your MPs, whoever did those amendments, did their job. They put the law in place. I'm reading it. I'm reading the law. But who are supposed to enforce it? DLP, RCIPS, and now we're seeing the Department of Environmental Health. The Department of Environmental Health. And when you look under the Public Health Act, and you may say, well, how the heck they got involved in that? Because that impacts your quality of life. The Public Health Act includes provisions that addresses noise pollution as a public health issue. Remember, I kept saying, before even sitting in this space, and previously, that public health impacts all sectors of our life. And it impacts every ministry. Now, under the Public Health Act, it prohibits loud noise activities, especially near schools, healthcare facilities, and residential areas. The Public Health Act prohibits loud noise activities, especially near schools, healthcare facilities, and residential areas. So you have the right to call a DEH officer because they have the powers under the Public Health Act to also assist. Now, when you look, because I mentioned this before, music and dancing control law, and for those of you who are just joining us, because some of you are coming in a little bit late, the legislation regulates noise from public entertainment, such as music and dancing. This is under the Music and Dancing Control Law. And recent amendments have included provisions for prescribing noise levels in describes and methods of measuring the noise, which means if you're in a bar, let's say it's outside, you should only be able to hear that at that bar within the confines of that space, okay? And under the Public Health Act, you can play your music in your yard, but you shouldn't be hearing it 3 blocks away, 4 roads over. That's against the Public Health Act, okay? And under the Music and Dancing Control Law, the Liquor Licensing Board can grant occasional licenses for events as they have the authority to waive or reduce fees for events at national festivals, which may include stipulations regarding noise levels. So without those special permissions from the Liquor Licensing Board, you're in breach of a law. The problem is not that the Cayman Islands, under this subject matter of noise, nuances, who is supposed to carry it out, that there are no laws. You cannot say, and this is just scratching the surface, that there is not legislation in place. And I have said it over and over in this space. Cayman is not short of laws. We are short of who's enforcing them. I'm not telling you that some don't need more teeth. Don't get me wrong. But it's not that we don't have a foundation. And whether not you think that some of the fees imposed, be it 500, 5,000, or it's an open season based on who you are. The fact is, it's not that we don't have laws. They're just not being enforced. Your elected members of parliament is not charged with enforcing these legislation. It is exactly who I'm saying. The Royal Cayman Islands Police Service, the Department of Labor and Pensions, the DLP, trade officers, DEH officials, they are the ones who are the enforcers. I have not found one evidence in legislation that it says you're MP. This is by no means giving them a free pass. I am here to educate. So who should be held accountable? When your representative have done what they've supposed to do. And if they stay in their lane, who do they complain about when you, the voting public, is at them? Because you hold them accountable at the polls every 4 years. You do. Now, making a noise complaint, you can contact DEH for general environmental noise issues, including from noise from construction or businesses. You can contact the Department of Environmental Health. Guess who else you can contact? RCIPS. For immediate noise disturbance, especially late at night, you contact the Royal Cayman Islands Police Service. If you didn't know, now you know. Let me take a look at some of the comments. Damien Charles. CI business license have stipulations and are on the actual license. So if a certain business can't open on Sunday, why is it not a stipulation? I agree with Sunday trade. Now look at sidewalk business every weekend. Those are considered, Damien Charles, I think, as pop-ups. And there is some, but if a pop-up can't be every Sunday. A pop-up can't be every Sunday. But again, trade and business license can be approved subject to conditions. And that's what I think you are alluding to. Now, of course, every approval, every refusal is entitled to be challenged by way of an appeal. So these are some of the stipulations. You're quite right, Jamie and Charles. You should actually be looking at your trade and business license or whatever license you're given, be it a work permit even. There are stipulations. They're subject to the following conditions. And many times, a lot of people are not reading those carefully. Good evening, Marshall. It's always good to have you here. Michelle, good evening. Hi, Darlene. Good evening to you, my dear. So what about the governor? I'm reading you the law, Damien. I'm reading you the law. The governor in this case, if you're talking about accountability, who's in charge for all of these civil servants for the operational arm? That's the deputy governor. Good evening, Anne. What about cutting her lawn? Oh, that's not working, Damien. That's in the confines of your house. I mean, hold on though. You may be living in an area, we can chuckle about it. You may be living in a neighborhood where they have covenants that actually says certain activities cannot be conducted on certain days of the week. I know that there are certain developments that construction is prohibited, especially loud drilling and banging and that sort of stuff, based on the covenants without special, if there's a homeowners association, certain permissions have to be given to work on Sundays or let's say weekends and certain public holidays. So it all depends, Damien Charles. You may not be allowed to cut your lawn where you are, or those noisy blowers that clog up drains and all that sort of stuff. So again, this is what you need to know. But some of the things, the key takeaway of why it was so important for me to read that is because we're seeing more and more social media, Facebook pages showing up, oh, we're open on Sundays. They're not in a hotel. They're not selling souvenirs. You cannot say that these persons who are advertising on Sundays are actually essential services, and they would not necessarily fall under the exemption of the 14 things that I just outlined earlier. So who is holding these accountable? If I'm seeing them pop up on Facebook, those persons who are tuning in to Sabrina Speaks are saying, hey, we need to look at this. And you're seeing these pages as just common citizens, civilians saying, what does our Sunday law say? I told you what it says. But if you're in breach, I told you who you got to call or who's responsible for it. Yeah. So it's quite interesting where we're going with this. And is it the time now that we actually look at exploring whether or not we should consider looking at this again? Or are we that hard pressed in traditions, what our Constitution says, that we are founded as a Christian society, but is it fair and balanced? Or is it a matter of survival? I'd like to get your take on it. 9368255. Now, I'm hoping that the silence is because you're in total awe and shock, or you're probably bored out of your wits that I'm not talking about somebody else, and then you fail to be educated about the facts. This podcast is about elevating talk. I'm going to give you the information. I'm going to give you facts so that you're not speaking to the wrong individuals, so that the powers that be, who I know many times are listening, will see that you're no longer dumb and under anybody's thumb, because I'm bringing it to you real. I'm bringing it to you live, and it's right there. It's right there for all of you to know. I can dilute this down in layman as I can get, but I cannot take away from accountability. That word will keep coming up. And let me just make it very clear. I am not defending any politician. I am not making any excuses for any elected MP, because their survival is based on the representation that they give their people, in hope that they won't double cross them, even though they may do good. Okay? I am not giving them a pass. It is still their duty to build those relationships with their respective constituencies. But some of the nuances that is actually presenting themselves in our constituencies, all a leader representative has within their grasp is to put pen to paper and communicate it to the right authority. Who are the gatekeepers for enforcing the laws that the MPs, the politicians, who are the policymakers of our country, put in place? Hi, Melita. Good evening. It's good to have you here with us. It's a tricky subject. What's so tricky about it, Damien? I can only bring you the facts. Damien Charles, well then, will non-Caymanians that own businesses be allowed to vote? That's up to you. I don't want to put it to a referendum. I don't know. Damien Charles, this is not CNN, but it's not. And I'm not trying to be. But these are some of the nuances that people are calling here on this show just angered, when in fact they probably didn't even know that they could call DEH. And I'm not trying to be anything, but I'm not going to come here and just fire from the hips when you're asking the right questions and not educate or inform you. When I learn, we all learn, and it's all there. We can sit here and we can talk about this New World Order, this 2030. You want to talk about that? Charity begins at home, and you got to understand the operations. You got to understand the chain of command. And not everybody's going to get it immediately. But I bet you if something goes wrong, you're going to want to find out, how does it work? Who do I go to report to? Well, I know some of you are just joining me. So you know what? That's a lot to absorb. To let some of that sink in a little bit. Let me just do this commercial. And when we come back, or when I come back, I'll talk about the pros and the cons of changing the law. And I'll hope to get your feedback. Stick with me, please.
The Ministry of Youth, Sports, Culture and Heritage is pleased to announce that the nominations for the 2026 National Recognition Awards are now open. Nominate individuals and groups who played a key role in developing the Cayman Islands' physical infrastructure. The categories include landmark leaders, infrastructure innovators, and the builders of Cayman. Visit gov.ky/YSCH. Click on the Nominate button to make a nomination. Here is a step-by-step guide to fill out the form. Before starting, please read the instructions, the award categories, and the eligibility criteria. Step 1. Enter your personal information and select the award category for the person or group you are nominating. Click Yes to confirm that your nominee meets the criteria. Step 2. Enter the nominee's full name, date of birth, and district. Indicate their current status, whether living or deceased, and ensure you have the current contact information for your nominee and their next of kin. Fill out the submission detail and provide any supporting documents and a reference to support your nomination. Step 3. Review your submission and make any changes by clicking the previous button. When you are ready, confirm and agree to the terms and click Submit Form to make your nomination. A thank you notice will confirm that the nomination was received, and a copy of the application will be sent to your email. Your nomination will be reviewed and considered by the National Recognition Awards Committee, and only successful nominees will be contacted and recognized at next year's National Heroes Day ceremony. The deadline to make a nomination is October 15. Remember, you can submit multiple nominations or browse our frequently asked questions by visiting the National Recognition Awards tab at gov.ky/YSCH. We look forward to receiving your nomination.
Welcome back to this edition of Sabrina Speaks right here on CMRTV.com. And Damian Hendry, thank you for explaining that. I posted it up. You were actually saying that, did not hide that. Let's do that. The people need to be educated about the rules and laws of the islands. That's why I say it's a tricky subject. You're quite right, Damien. And ignorance of the law is no excuse. And many people could actually find themselves in a little pickle, which is why I'm so happy we're transitioning into the pros and cons of it. Because shall we even consider when you look at what would it mean then to our economy, our culture, that balance, our Caymanian identity, if Sunday trade were legalized or even partially allowed? And, we have looked at the law in its entirety, and you see the 14 subheadings of that act. Pretty much we're almost there. We're almost there. And now that we've laid out the law, and I'm hoping that you're following with me, I want to just look then, like I said, at the heart of the matter. Is it time for us to engage in this conversation then whether or not Cayman should consider changing its Sunday trade legislation? I don't know. I'm just throwing it out there. And I'm not just talking about opening of shops. I'm talking about opening of a conversation. Let's start there, okay? About survival. Let's talk about survival. Let's talk about fairness and the future. Would your child or children who's now in college after being exposed to other traditions, cultures, traveling the world? Would this be so topical to them, or would it matter? Or would they say, look, people have to eat? I think that it should be a choice. If you own a business, you should have a choice to open. And where do you find a balance then in diversifying tourism? Is that what people look for? How are we measuring all of this? Not being a tourism expert, but we know they do a lot of surveys. But then who's really at the core of all of these surveys? What do the people of the Cayman Islands want? And this is why it's important for us to have these conversations, right? So let's talk about this. Miss Rose, the Sunday is not valid. That Sunday is not valid in Cayman Island. We born and raised up believing we are still and will always keep Sunday as a blessed day. Okay, yep. Dean, if you call DEH about no loud noise, etc., they will tell you to call the police. Politicians are in charge. Politicians are in charge of DEH. Damian Charles, DEH and DCI are open on Sunday or have someone on call? I'm not a good question, Damian Charles. I don't know. I don't know if they have a hotline, which may actually go back to what Dean Gillette is saying. If you call them, they gotta tell you to call the police. And this is why it's a back and forth when all of them have the powers of a constable. So who gets stuck in the middle is quite interesting. You see, this finger pointing, who holds them accountable for pointing the fingers? Does it have to be then joint operations? Do our powers that be, does the deputy governor have to look at these multiple government agencies differently? Because now it appears they're, again, you hear me talking about working in silos and having to come together so the people don't actually suffer, because we're seeing what Damian Charles, you're right. It's a hot potato. But while you suffer and you curse your MPs, it's a free pass. Really? Is that where we're going with this? But you know what? Let's go. Let's look at the pros and cons. Should there be a change? Pros of change. And Miss Rose, I know I raised up into a Seventh-day Adventist home. It's by choice. For those, I've always looked at Sunday because that's what I was raised up finding, that's a day of rest. But again, for Sunday, it's another day based on my household. But we have to respect nationally, Sunday is a day of rest. But let's look at the pros and cons. Legalizing or expanding Sunday trade could bring real economic relief if you really look at it. And some small businesses, especially family-run shops, and local vendors could earn more. Now, we understand that once you're a retail business deemed as essential service based on the 14, as long as your retail space is under 4,000 square feet, you're allowed to operate on a Sunday. But let's take this call. Good evening, caller. Welcome to the show. You're live on Sabrina Speaks.
Good evening, Sabrina. How are you?
I'm fair to fine. What's on your mind? Oh, that actually rhymed. Oh, and it rhymed again.
I think it's about time.
We're not going there today.
I heard you read a comment from someone saying that Sunday is blessed and sacred.
Mm-hmm.
But while I can understand that tradition is important, culture has evolved, do they not?
Mm-hmm.
I believe there was a point where Caymanians, wasn't cinemas banned on Sundays
and now they're open, mm-hmm. Which is why the film under 2015 was enacted.
Do we regret allowing them now? In updating the Sunday laws, I don't think erases faith. It just gives people choice.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
For those who might say that Sundays for rest and family and opening businesses would destroy that, plenty of people work on Sundays, both hospital staff,
uniform service, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Hotel.
Mm-hmm.
Why is it family time for some, but a work day for others?
Mm-hmm.
Shouldn't fairness apply across the board?
Mm-hmm.
And then if somebody says we're a Christian nation and our law should reflect that, we may be majority Christian, but we're also diverse. We have Adventists who hold the Saturday as sacred. We have Muslims that hold Friday as sacred.
Mm-hmm.
And we even have some Caymanians who are just non-religious.
Mhm.
Shouldn't the law serve everyone and just not one faith group? Those are the types of questions I want people to mull over.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so I mean,
No, it's true
is
because
there a middle ground?
exactly. But this is why we have to air it here. If we air it here, forums like this, because then we're seeing where right now, if we have to act in accordance to law, it would appear as though it's kicking the can down the road, but yet the law says who are there as the gatekeepers and the enforcers. We're already hearing how people feel that they're made to be treated when they go to the DLP, when they go to the Royal Cayman Islands Police. We've had comments here that says when you even call DEH for certain things, they send you to go to the police. So, at the end of the day, it all boils down to accountability and all persons having to do their jobs is what I'm getting from this. And Damien said it right. You can't please everyone, but where do we go then? Where do we go looking at the amendment to the Sunday trade law right now? We are pretty much, might as well you say we're open.
Well, I mean, perhaps, I'm just thinking solutions here. I'm
Yeah,
just
yeah.
thinking ground, right?
Mm-hmm.
As far as trade on Sundays being permitted or being widened, right?
Mm-hmm.
Could we not pair any Sunday law reform with workplace protection so that, I don't know, you have your Seventh-day Adventists or your Sunday worshipers alike or whoever, they can request their Sabbath off, whatever their Sabbath is.
Well, that depends on the nature of the business, because in that case, having been a nurse, it didn't matter. Having been a fire officer, would that be fair to the rest of your peers? Would you be able to, every Adventist that is a police officer, they get the Saturday Sabbath off?
No, but those are essential services. I'm talking about, widening the trade law so that, if I want to open my shop.
Oh, from that perspective. Mm-hmm.
I don't have a shop, by the way, but if I wanted to open my shop on a Sunday and, or I wanted to open my bar on a Sunday, or I wanted to open whatever my business is, right?
Right.
I wanted to open it on a Sunday. I don't think that I should be limited because of
this exclusion list.
People,
yeah. Mm-hmm.
Who, because for the sake of tradition,
mm-hmm.
We're gonna. Look, life rough out here, and people need to pay bills. People got money. People got mouths to feed. Like, let me work.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Let me work. Let me earn my money.
Right. But you see, that's where the balance has to be found. And because I said that at the very beginning, and then it looked then at even the Constitution. Is that fair and balance as we evolve? Because we said then about diversifying our tourism product, since we're more now look as though with the failed referendum, looks as though now we're going to be catering more to stay over tourism. Does that then open up the way, which we've seen with the exempted list, that it's open season for them? So this is why certain stores, if they so choose to open on a Sunday, once they're selling souvenirs and all that sort of stuff, are you only catering to the cruise ship, or you're catering to stay over tourists? You see where I'm going with that?
Yeah, but I think it just should anybody should be able to open a business on Sunday if they so choose. Provided that you're not disturbing anybody else's quote unquote Sabbath.
Okay.
Right. If they want, again, I'm just thinking, okay, if they want to test the waters,
mm-hmm.
I don't know. Maybe you can give small Caymanian-owned businesses the option to open on Sundays before granting that privilege to the big foreign-owned chains.
Mm-hmm.
That could potentially protect locals while testing the waters.
Mm-hmm. Melita made a comment.
Sunday, but only for a set window.
Well, these are some of the solutions as well that can be considered, but a wider discussion may actually have to ensue, because then when you even look at some of the activities that are happening with the cruise, the different cruise parties that happens, and we all hear about those. And then you have on a long weekend like the 1201 parties. I've been to a few. It is what it is. And then you look at the Saturday nights. Hello. Yeah, it is the truth.
Wait,
1201.
That's when the alter ego comes out, huh?
But no, what I'm saying is,
Alfred need to come and look for her.
yeah, Alfred need to come. But what I'm saying is, you go out even on a Saturday night, and before you get there, bang, last call.
Yeah.
But yet you got a full dining room, you got the bands playing, and that's probably a family that just came for the first time. And like what Melita says, to be honest, there's no family time for majority of the families here because bills need to be paid and mouths got to get fed. And Damian Charles says the Constitution needs to be revised. Raymond had a very interesting comment. Christ is our Sabbath, not a day. And Melita says, but there's already small mom and pop shops open on Sundays. You're quite right, Melita. And once they're under 4,000 square feet of retail space, they're allowed to open as essential service. So yeah, but you're seeing already, caller, where even car repair stores can open on a Sunday, but 90% of them are not. If you look at that.
I mean, if I have a
so it's a
business,
choice.
but if I have a business and I choose to say, all right, you know what, Sunday is my day where I go to church and I spend time with my family and I get my Sunday dinner.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, and I choose to forego whatever profits I make on a Sunday. I mean, I think that should be my choice, not because I don't think it should be. Well, I can't open business on a Sunday because
of a law saying so.
Law, right? But how about this then, right?
Mm-hmm.
This actually ties into one of your callers last night talking about district councils and that kind of thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
What are your thoughts on allowing each district to vote or decide whether shops open on Sundays in their areas? That way communities can reflect their own values without a one-size-fits-all.
Mm-hmm. And it saves us thousands of dollars by a referendum. Now, those are some of the things that your elected member of parliament can do.
I'm curious what your audience would.
Yeah.
Your audience.
Yeah, it would be interesting if you could get it from a 1919 constituents, make that as a homework project, and you get a flavor of what, in this case, then it wouldn't matter whether or not then are you only going to limit that to persons who are registered to vote or residents, because everyone is living here at the end of the day. But still, you would get a good sampling of what your constituents feel, because I can tell you, many are fearful of this topic because they are fearful of upsetting the Christians. Mm-hmm.
Well, I mean,
because of their voter base, and you will have a diverse in based on the composition of your constituencies. You will see them there. It's like they're fearful of having the conversation, but we're seeing these establishments still open and in their constituencies more often, and their constituents still partying.
I don't see why the Christians should be offended by us having a conversation. I mean, we're having a conversation.
Mm-hmm. No, but to get a feel of what the people feel in your constituents, I totally support that. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but is your faith that brittle that you can't entertain a conversation? I know you're not saying it.
No.
Don't get offended at me. You can get offended at me, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we're having a conversation here about and you're telling me that people are afraid to even talk about it for fear of upsetting the Christians. I mean, I just don't understand that logic.
Put it like this. It wouldn't be necessarily, based on my previous experience, on the top of anybody's list. And if it's anything, they would do it in the first half of an administration, hoping to redeem their faith by the second half.
I see.
Read in between the lines. Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, I'll leave you there. Let's continue to explore middle ground.
Yeah, but it is quite interesting because even with stats that I've found here, not that I'm for or against, I'm just bringing to the table, and I'm so happy that that you understand, and I can see a lot of my commenters are understanding why it's important for me to put this out here and to just come from a very informed perspective. That when you look at some statistics, that tourism could thrive because we were looking at all of our taxi operators, those who are in the industry. And when you look at visitors who expect 7 days of access to certain services and Sunday trade could boost the per visitor spending 8 to 12%, especially in the dining and retail and excursions, which those are already under the exempted sections. You understand? So really, when you look at it, it is still automatically per choice. It's a choice. And when you look at it, more open hours may mean more shifts. It could create more job opportunities for youth and single parents, and those who are seeking flexible working hours. And look at the government revenue that could increase through licensing these premises, for the economic activities, and potential millions annually. If we're talking about diversifying, I keep going back to that, our product. This is why we're having the conversation, caller. So the gatekeepers, for what law is in place right now, sir, to be honest with you, it's the gatekeepers that are failing our people. That's what it boils down to.
All right. Well, I'll leave you there. I don't want to hog the lines.
All right. Thank you so much. Always a pleasure. Thanks for calling. Yeah, and you're free to call as well. 936-8255 is the number to call to weigh in on this topic. Yes, about how you feel about the pros and cons of possibly exploring Sunday trades and opening it up a little bit more. Melita says, Bo, all 5 districts already have at least one shop open on a Sunday. Melita, you're quite right. Damien Charles, some people's Sunday of rest is also brunch, beach, and liquor store. Damien, yes. And that is why in one of my openings, I said what I said. Some of them have never darkened their foot into a doors of the church. And some of them may never. And you just have to respect people's rights, which is why you said the Constitution may have to be revisited. And this topic of Sunday trades may actually have to be considered unless and until such time who is holding persons accountable. But again, hot potato, as one commenter said, how do you stop a man from making a living? But that's no excuse for breaking the law when in some cases we're knowing that illegal activities are happening at some of these establishments that are not licensed to sell liquor. And that's what people do. So you're seeing where the trend is going. If we have laws that are being broken, then get them, hold people accountable. But if you're not even catching them, then what's the sense? Now, some of the cons, we still must tread carefully though, because out of respect. Because don't care what, we know Sunday for many is sacred. And for many, it is a day of worship, a rest, and to be with family. But we have explored that from what the last caller said with those persons who are in the uniform services. There are just certain industries, the hospitality industry, where it's honestly for them just another day of the week. And opening trade could erode that very same rhythm. Now, that all depends on how you look at it as well, because it could be already eroding because we're seeing where there's more traffic on the road. We're seeing where brunches are something that people are actually looking forward to. You're seeing persons that are planning more trips out in the North Sound and many more boat cruises and all that sort of stuff. These DJs make a living from this, right? And without strong protections, though, workers may be pressured to work on Sundays, losing their only guaranteed day off. But that's, again, based on the industry and mutual understanding from you and your employer. And when you look at then the larger retailers may benefit disproportionately, forcing smaller shops then to compete or compromise. So you see where the balance is, because right now, as it stands, if you're a retail space that is not considered essential services and you're over 4,000 square feet of retail space, you're not going to open. So my Uncle Clem's, Boose's, Macross, and all of those, and you got other little mom and pop stores like you rightfully know, Chisholm's and all of that sort of stuff. What would happen to them then if it's open season for everybody? Would they then struggle? So it is, those are some of the cons. But the big question that I need to ask, can we profit? Can we protect our Christian heritage then while considering embracing economic opportunity? Tell that to somebody whose hours maybe is cut or could get more hours and they're struggling to make the payments for their mortgage or utility bills or send their kids to school. And I'm not placing nationality when I make that statement. I'm speaking to everyone. This is just a general conversation. Can we honor rest while supporting resilience? Or can we even evolve without erasing who we are? But do we know who we are? Can we even identify where we want to go? So it's very interesting. Now let's look at the economic side of things and be very honest that many businesses are already operating on Sunday, be it quietly, cautiously, and sometimes outright illegally. And enforcement, as we can see it, and as obvious, is patchy. And accountability, from what we're seeing, is blurred. And the law, as written, no longer reflects the reality on the ground as we see it unfolding. So when you really look at it, what is the cost of keeping things as they are? There's a possible cost of loss of revenue, loss of trust, because people no longer believe in the system if everybody's going to be pointing the fingers, and we can see the frustration that is being vocalized here on this space with how they're being treated when they go to make reports at the police. And I'm hoping then by means of this episode that they notice that they can also call the DEH and the DLP. But like the question is, and I'm going to double check to see if they have an after hours call, understanding this responsibility. I'm going to make some inquiries there. There could be loss of opportunity as well. And perhaps loss of integrity. Because if we continue to say one thing pretty much in law, but another thing in practice, what does that say about us? What does that say about us? Jungle justice? But yet we're fighting ourselves. Eventually, this bubble will break. And if we don't see a delicate balance, we don't want it to erode the trust. We don't want it to appear as though only certain people are being penalized, but yet the law is there, but gatekeepers aren't doing what they're supposed to do. It's only a matter of time. Ms. Rose, each staff has the right to get a Saturday or Sunday off now and doctor's appointment as well, but the staff has to show their request proof and they are not telling any fault report. Also, liquor stores are open on Sunday. Yes, Ms. Rose, liquor stores are open. You're quite right. Ms. Marjorie, hi, how are you? When we ran out of staff on a Sunday, a long time ago, we went to Tall Tree. They were always open on Sundays. So when you ran out of stuff, you went to Tall Tree to top up. Okay, gotcha. So those are the mom and pop stores that you would go through, Miss Matt. Yeah. And many people, they actually do their shopping at Uncle Clem. Sometimes you can barely find a cart or a basket. I've been there. And Boosters too. Boosters as well. Many Sundays Boosters serve me. Many Sundays macros with plantain, and sometimes you need little beets for your potato salad because you want a pink one. Many a times. Many a time. So I know. Now, let's say it was open season. Would I still go to those mom and pop stores? Or would I go to a Hurley's? Or would I go to a Foster's? Or would it just boil down to convenience if all stores were allowed to open on a Sunday. And because your mind is still culturally switched that I just want a tin of beets, or I just want some plantains, or I ran short of potatoes for my potato salad. You know, yeah, but many Sundays I can remember going to Boos's. And when I was younger, to show you how long Boos's were open, I can remember walking from the police station all the way down there for a tin of corn because my grandmother forgot to pick it up the Saturday night from Kirk Plaza's. Now that's a long time. But what I'm saying is I'm accustomed to going to the mom and pop stores to pick that up. Damien Charles, the government also loses on more important revenue. Well, then maybe they may need to look at it from a different angle too, Damien Charles. But we're all talking about revenues being collected and diversifying our offerings and all that sort of stuff. It's worth having the conversation, I must say. They grant liquor to be sold on Sundays, just the small stores. We can get goods from the grocery store. Yep. And also gas stations are allowed to sell liquor as well once they're licensed. Melita, I'm in between two supermarkets and I rather go to the corner shop because I'm not pressured to spend more money in and out. Yeah, some people, I could tell you, Melita, I have an aunt who lives down by Uncle Clem's. I have an aunt who lives there and she loves it because you can get your oxtails, you can get your meat, you can buy it by the pound. And that reminds me of the days when you had the meat market out in town. Yeah. Right across from where Subway is. I can remember going out there and buying, I still like to go get my meats from them. And I do it in bulk. If you have a deep freeze or you have space in your freezer and you do it like the holidays are coming up now, you go and you buy all your stuff and you'll clean them up and you'll season them up and you just put them away to freeze. But that's what I'm used to be honest. So, and that was on a Sunday. Damien Charles, Solomon store is Boos's. Yes. But only legends will know where I'm talking about, Damien. But Solomon's Grocery is Seema's Boos's. Yeah, Mary Street, the corner of Mary Street right there. And shameless plug to all of them. These small, you got one now to, oh Lord, across from Steve's. Steve's now is open as well, right there by where Old Paramount Carpets building used to be on Sheridan Road. Steve's open too. So, I mean, these are all the little stores. They weren't around when I was a young girl, though. So I used to go to Boos's. Yep. So it's really something that we look at in regards to creating a balance while preserving who we are as a people, to be honest. And is it time to change? I don't know. You tell us. And that's why it's so important for your feedback. And at the end of the day, we can explore the balance of moving forward. What would it look like, or what it could look like from if we actually engage more in more public consultations to workers' protections, or even like what a caller alluded to, we have different zones of trade, of cultural safeguards, and there are always, evolve without losing ourselves and who we are as a true identity. However, many people saying we don't know who we are because many people are coming in here and they're writing our own script. They're changing our trajectory. Well, look, the silent majority cannot remain silent anymore. You need to speak up. You need to speak out. And this thing of and just putting 2 or 3 people in the front to be the vocals, to be the voice. And then if it works, then everybody benefits. God forbid if it goes sideways, then Sabrina is blackballed. Is that what you're afraid of? Really? At the end of the day, we need a path forward. Balance and growth and heritage is what I can say. That's not my opinion. This is a matter for discussion because of all that I have given and placed in the public's domain. But it still boils down to accountability. And accountability from those gatekeepers who are there to enforce our legislation. Melita, I always send tourists from the ship to Boos's shop. Nice, well, they could get a Cayman experience there. Good for you, Melita. Damien Henry, many people appreciate having one day in the week when things are slower, quieter, which is Sunday. It gives individuals and families opportunities to attend church, rest, spend time together without the rush of errands. However, as population increases and society becoming more multicultural and globalized, people like a wider range of preferences. Some people might prefer more flexibility. Damien, you pretty much summed it up why it's important, or why it was important for me to even engage in this topic today. We can't take our eye off of the fact that we are evolving. And I know this could upset a lot of people, but if we don't deal with this, we're going to have more persons breaking the law. And if we're seeing where the gatekeepers are not guarding the gate by holding persons who are breaking the law accountable, what's the sense of having the gate? That statement may be read incorrectly by some who don't understand its context. If you're there to do a job, let's hold those persons accountable and let them do their job until legislation is amended, until we do a sensitive check in our society to determine where we go from here. Okay? Where do we go from here? That includes public consultation, like the caller called and said, it would be a good idea for 19 representatives to do a survey, to do a feedback, to get really a sense of what their constituencies feel about Sunday trade. Because before any change, we must listen to churches, youth, small business owners, tourism leaders, Seventh-day Adventists. Voice must be a part of the conversation, and that is why we're having it now. Not just invited, but to be heard. But in order for you to be heard, you got to speak. And not many of you are actually speaking up. So really, what does Sunday really mean to you? At this point, are you saying, Sabrina, it makes no sense. You're just talking because you have a podcast. Really? So why people reached out to me to say, let's have this topic, because they're angered that there are laws in place and they're seeing blatant disregard, total disrespect for our laws, and saying we're open and they are not exempted. Or what would respectful Sunday trade look like for you if we're going to do public consultation? Or if public consultation is going to be taken up, how do we protect both faith and fairness? And if we even look then at the zone sector-based trades, not every business needs to then open on a Sunday. As we're seeing right now, it goes back to some of the comments, it should be by choice. Not every district needs to shift either. That could be a choice based on a survey that is taken from your constituents. So we could allow Sunday trade in designated zones like tourism corridors, as we're seeing along the 7 Mile corridor, or specific sectors then are a little bit more relaxed, as we're seeing with the exemption list that was changed or put forward in 2015, where they actually modified it, such as wellness or other cultural retails. What does that look like? We need that feedback. And this will give pretty much flexibility without forcing ununiformity, meaning it's just hodgepodge all over the place. What we don't want. Damien, Melita says I must give Damien a kaboom. There we go. Damien, yep, you're hitting it out the ballpark today, I must say. And I thank you for your feedback. What we don't want is to end up being a country, though, where we're seeing, as someone alluded to, all of these pop-ups on the roadside. And God forbid, at a stoplight, and we got them panhandling. Then I know we're gone. But if they're playing a blind eye to certain things now, what's going to happen when that creeps in? This is why I'm all about being proactive and not reactive. This is why I took the time to research and to give you the law as it is and not just come here and speak. It is all there. Who to call, who's responsible for upholding and enforcing, and even broke it down to what their rights are. But if they fail to do their job, who's holding them accountable? That's the big question. Chelsea, when is Cayman Islands going to get the digital ID? Chelsea, that, my love. Hey, I want to do a show on that one because, oof, that is a big topic. We got the fors and the against, and we got it all sorts of. I can bring it, I can bring it, but I don't know if it'll give you the answer as to when. But I pretty much have done a lot of research on it. I'm looking at what's happening into the region, what's happening with them, other jurisdiction in the region, trying to roll it out and what they're saying and what pushbacks and support that they're getting from their people. And even though it's been a little subtle here, as is mostly everything, only a few persons who are vocal enough to give their side on what they feel is all you're hearing, which is why we need to get out ahead of this and just present the facts to have open dialogue on this digital ID. But Chelsea, it coming, meaning the topic. Just like this is hard to actually have, and we're seeing the apathy for whatever reason, that is appearing to be our society nowadays, that you will support me in the shadows, tell me all sorts of good ideas, all subjects, but you will never speak out aloud or even comment publicly. But I thank all of the supporters in the shadows and those who are bold enough to come here and speak. Dean, the Cayman Islands promotes a multicultural society, yet laws and infrastructure doesn't complement that lifestyle. So will we surrender to this modernization and culturalism, or can we continue to survive on our old pillars that made us who we are, or become more pro-liberal yet remains to be answered? Dean, I tell you what, there's a saying that goes, the squeaky wheel gets the oil. And let me put this into context for you. The silent majority can no longer remain silent. Okay? The squeaky wheel gets the oil. So whoever is going to be shouting the loudest and whoever is going to be forceful on our legislators will be the winners. That may be for or against what you stand up for as morals. But if you so choose to be one of the silent majority, can you almost say that what you get? If it is just our cultural nature, that will have to change. And if the new generation coming up are young adults who we're seeing they're becoming more vocal, they may be the one charting the course, because what legacy will we leave for them? The mere fact that I'm even scratching the surface by having this conversation, I'm not asking you, I'm telling you, a lot of the young people are happy that I'm doing it. They have their own circles that they're talking. I am telling you. And you wait. You wait. You will see the power of the youth. So we might as well just have it here, sensitize ourselves, educate ourselves, because the longer we remain in the shadows, what may actually present itself in the light that could impact your well-being and your quality of life, because you remain to be one of the silent majority, may not be too pleased with the results. Miss Rose, We have more nomination churches than grocery stores in Cayman Islands, all different kinds of churches in Cayman. Years ago, we could choose the 1-2 churches to attend to this island, and it is a mess with, well, they have a lot of churches. I do agree. And they're all NGOs. Damien Charles, your voice and opinions opens critical and logical thinking. I am hoping. Damien, God knows I am hoping. I like you, I like you. You get where I'm going. I like you. Honest to God, I do. The other Damien Charles, yeah, okay. Rose, different religions. We have give everyone on Sabrina chat. Okay. The other Damien Charles, the other Damien Henry. Melita, another issue is we have cruise ships coming on holidays like Christmas, but yet government entities are closed, which means it's really nothing for the tourists to do while they're here. That matter urgently needs attention. I don't even work on those days because it's embarrassing. So that's a vocal person. Thank you for vocalizing your thoughts right there. Chelsea, okay, thank you. I'll be watching. Yeah, man. The digital ID, that's something. I really have the draft script, I got it because I have to draw reference points. I have to get my thoughts so that I can be able to, when I speak, it makes sense and I'm just not flying. And I never know what kind of comments are going to come, who's going to call, and they may be very versed, but or even more versed in that from their perspective. I have to be able to bring a balanced approach because I don't know who's going to call in, Chelsea. So I'm going to be very comfortable when I engage on certain topics in the event that I'm always prepared for either side. What I feel, my opinion in this case, doesn't matter, to be honest, if I want to be fair and balanced and respectful of everyone who participates in this space. Because at the end of the day, I must see it from both sides. So anytime you hear a person's call, persons who contribute, persons who participate in this discussion, you will hear me. I will ask them to slow down, break it down. What do you mean? Like yesterday, what do you mean with 2030? I had to ask the question. It's not like I didn't know. I wanted it to be stated. And when I found the time to educate, even though it was a little bit off topic, but it made sense, I took the time to actually went through all of that. Now, whether that's a topic that's going to come back up, I'm getting more information even after the shows and more reference points to show me another side of why some people are against this whole sustainability thing come 2030 and what that deadline means. So I'm going to educate myself full circle because I have to be comfortable with engaging in the conversation. But that ID one, I could say I'm 3/4 there, Chelsea. But yeah, you got to keep it locked at this space and like, share, and subscribe, follow so that you don't miss an episode. Aha, that was a shameless plug for myself. Damien Charles, the cruise ships, when booking, should let them know that retail stores on Grand Cayman are closed. But Damien, based on what I said, a lot of those stores can open. Once they sell souvenirs and they are there, they can open. There's nothing stopping them from opening right now. No, they can open. So if some of these stores are not open on cruise ship days, that's their personal choice. That act allows them to, that exemption allows them, businesses involved in the provisions of goods and services, primarily to tourists, including establishments selling souvenirs and duty-free items, tourist accommodation, water sports operators, golf courses, and businesses involved in sightseeing activities. So if a cruise ship is making a call here on a Sunday, saved by government, as Melita says, and banks that we know are not open, but 95% of their services right now are actually by an ATM. But what if you need to do a draft? What if you need a cambio, money exchange? Yeah, those are some limitations there. Hint, that could be a business. Hey, I'm giving you lots of ideas here on this space. But what I'm saying is, right now, there's nothing stopping these stores from opening. And retail businesses involved primarily in the sale of food items and beverages where such establishments is less than 4,000 square feet. There's a reason why I said that, because if you fall under the duty-free items, tourist accommodations, water sports, and all that sort of stuff, you're not subjected to the under 4,000 square feet. It's only for those businesses for the sale of food items and beverages where such an establishment. So to be honest with you, if those stores don't open, that's a personal choice. But right now, the law actually allows them to open. Yeah. So, Damien, if they're closed, that's a retailer's choice. But there's nothing stopping them right now. Not all, but some of them open. Yeah, Melita. So it's a choice. And even the artisans, if some of those artisans wants to open, that's totally up to them, because they're making handcraft goods, souvenirs. That's totally up to them whether or not they want to open. So it's quite interesting. Like I said, we are almost there based on all of those things that are outlined. So when you're looking at, these zones that we could possibly consider, the importance of having the conversations, inviting you in to participate, and who then would be your messenger for this? These representatives of your MPs. I can't call them district councils because the Constitution is not, it is what it is. But they're representatives of your MPs or whatever you have, or your MPs themselves. And then you look then at even worker protections. No one should actually be forced to work on a Sunday. And this is why it's important that you have a statement of working conditions and that you make that clear from the entry of a contract. When you enter a contract and you get your statement of working conditions, hoping that it aligns and making sure that it aligns with the department of the DLP and the labor laws. But no one should be forced to work on Sundays. But that depends on the contract that you sign as well. And any legislative changes must guarantee, these are some of the worker protections that could be considered. I'm not telling you this is law, but changes should guarantee voluntary Sunday shifts with no penalty of choosing rest over working. And at the end of the day, we have one goal. Let's protect our people, not just our profits. That may be saying something else for someone who depends on every hour when it comes to paying their bills and meeting a deadline or have an aspirational dream. At the end of the day, it is what it is from that perspective. Miss Melita, the only ones that I'm aware of not open on Sunday are the Cockernal stores like Bayshore Mall. You're quite right. And you know what? That's a family tradition and I respect them. But will the next generation of the Cockernals change? Is that a legacy that they've made a promise to the founders of the company? Fathers, great-grandfathers, we don't know. Will the climate change to the point where they may actually revisit that as we continue to evolve? We don't know. We just have to respect persons, But transparent enforcement, it all comes back down to this. And if our law remains, then it must, let's say there's no change to what I've read here this evening. It must be enforced fairly. And DCI, along with the RCIPS, DEH, really should be tasked with publishing monthly reports on inspections, violations, and outcomes of these violations. And no more quiet contraindications. It can't be quiet. You need to know. You need to know if the law doesn't change, and no more selective silence. It shouldn't be when the country's at an uproar because somebody was dealt with unfairly, that, you hear it, because accountability also brings trust. And if we have identified here that the laws are there, they're just not being enforced, then accountability needs to be had. And when there's no accountability for our gatekeepers in doing their jobs and upholding the law, then that is eroding trust. That is a secret ingredient to a society heading down a path where you do whatever you want, and that's not who we are. So we have a right to make sure that we safeguard our culture as well with a delicate balance. And to be honest with you, a national commitment to preserve rest, be it Sunday still, reverence and reflection, even, as trade evolves. And what does that look like, you may say? Or you could probably look at it then as a Cayman Sunday charter. That could include, or maybe could suggest, community-led Sunday events. You could have faith-based programming instead of just going to church and whatever. After church, 12 o'clock can't come too quick. You're on your boat and you're out on the sandbar, or you're heading to East End to get some good old fry fish and just sitting there. Or you wait for your family members who are at church to come home, and you're the designated driver and you head or east or wherever you want to go. For me, everybody know where they find me. Yeah, sometimes they'll find me East End. Kaibo too. Yep. And the Reef. Yep, that's family time. But the key takeaway is public education on Cayman's Christian heritage. That is that, because when you look at culture, a delicate balance or Christian principles isn't just what we protect. It is what we live. And we're saying we don't have a culture. We do. We just need to be a little bit more vocal. And I cringe when I hear that, because some of the same people that are making those statements are a part of the silent majority. And they have a lot to say, but they're not saying it in the right spaces. No. So I have been pleading for your participation to really get to understand exactly. And thank you for all of you who are commenting and making your statements. But I want to leave it out there asking, would you support Sunday trade if it came with protections and respect? This is what I'm throwing out there now. Or even, what does that look like with balance, being fair and balance? What would that look like to you? If there was some tweaks to Sunday trade, what would be considered? And pretty much if our constitution needs to evolve, to be amended, to be rectified, maybe they can put in district councils, make that clear when they do that amendment. Do we then have the courage to act on it? Is there any political will? The power is in your hands, people. The power is in your hands. Our trajectory is based on you. So it's your voice and it's your values, and where we go really depends on you. And your voice need to be a part of the conversation. But sometimes I feel that you're so silent that it's actually eroding who we are. And it's actually going to be one of the key demise of our future if we don't start speaking more. Because to be honest with you, this isn't just about policy, It's about the people. It's about being fair and respectful with the faith and the future we are building together. It can't just be lopsided. And you can point the fingers all you want. Miss Melita, they need to rotate using the terminals when it's slow season, so some of the stores on the other side can make business as well. Melita, I heard some stories around that, child. I'm going to do a little bit of digging on that one. I heard some stories about that because some people come off on the north terminal and don't even know that there's shops down by Kirk's because they only come off on that side and everything goes west. But anything coming to Hogstye Bay, to the Kirk Freeport section, you don't know it exists, but yet we have 2 terminals. We have restroom facilities as well. But I'm hearing there's a reason behind that. I don't know. I don't want to speculate. I will get some information and I'll share it why. I don't know. If you know, please share it, you know. Because they barely get any of the passengers working over to that side. My point. Yeah, there is lots of business down there, like the Harley Davidson. That side that I'm referring to is where the Hard Rock Cafe is, on that side where Paradise was, or the remnants of whatever that structure is, Eden Rock side. Unless they're selling snorkeling or whatever, a lot of the tourists are not seen there. Mind you, sometimes you will see some of the tourists walking back. I guess they then use a taxi then and they go to Smith Cove. But half of the tourists only going west. They're not aware of what's on that side of the terminal. So interesting. Damien Charles, so true. The south terminal is always closed. More. Damien Charles. Yeah, I'm hearing there's a story behind that. Melita Royal Watler Terminal. Hard Rock is now closed also. Yep. And there's a lot down there. It's like a ghost town, to be honest. Even on the best days when we have cruise ships in, because everybody's heading west. The majority of the people are headed west and they don't come that way. So it's interesting. Yeah. It's going to be an interesting showdown, to be honest. This is not a simple issue. I must really, and some of the comments shared here this evening, you know, it's a hot potato. It's a topic that people are scared to, or there's just so much for them to absorb. Is it easier then for those gatekeepers who are responsible for upholding our laws than to play a blind eye if it's okay? You do say nothing, I do say nothing. But then if that's the case, remove the law. This is not a simple issue. I get it. It touches our churches. It touches our businesses, our families, and even our own identity, you know. I get it. But I also know this one thing, that we are a thoughtful people and you can push us so far. And then eventually you get enough. And despite all of that, we still remain principled. But you got to talk. This silence is not helping anybody. But you know what? I want us to keep the conversation going. And if you have further questions or concerns, feel free, 936-8255. WhatsApp me afterwards. Many a nights, oh my God, for the messages that I get after the show. I'm like, where are you guys when I'm live? But I understand some of you are tuning in late and some of you are coming in after the fact. But yeah, but send your questions and your concerns in. But I think the call of action here this evening is to really take into consideration what some of you shared in regards to what is the pulse of the nation, where we want to go. What is your take from a constituency standpoint on as it pertains to Sunday trade? And how can we deal with that, balancing culture, reflecting on people's beliefs, Christianity versus survival, and that sort of stuff. So this is why I really just wanted to bring both sides of it. Yeah. Melita, they pretty up Cardinal Avenue and now what? Millions of dollars out there and it's dead. Yep. Hey, Connie, how are you, my love? How are you? It's so good to see you. Lord, to come to class when school over, you bet. You bet. Well, you gotta scroll back this evening. Very interesting conversation, Dokani. It's in regards to Sunday trade, and we had some very interesting feedbacks. But I know you must have a good reason why. But yes, you did actually catch amen. And I'm hoping that today's episode of Sabrina Speaks did put a spotlight on it, that you've had more clarity. And I'm hoping by all means, each episode you learn and there's a takeaway and from this. And, you know, at the end of the day, everyone has a voice, but we cannot remain silent and expect that, you know, things are going to change. Someone will actually chart our own course if you decide to remain silent. And that's not the way to go. And I will continue to be here to bring up these topics. And let me repeat, I am not giving your elected MPs a free pass. But with all the pieces of legislation that I read, I see one piece of legislation that says an MP, an elected member of parliament. It says DCI, it says Royal Cayman Islands Police Service, it says DEH. They have the power to hold all of these nuances that you have been speaking about in this space accountable. Now, who is going to hold them accountable is where the question lies. Why have they been allowed to play or put a blind eye to some of these persons that are actually in breach of laws? Yeah. So, yeah, it's interesting. Damien, I think that might all change once Georgetown 1 gets all sold and occupied. Well, time will tell. Yep. Melita, I can hear you say there's no child. That's okay, Banyan. Well, anyhow, you know, we have journeyed through law. And I hope it really, first of all, I really hope that you enjoyed this episode. Sometimes I wonder, you know, I really wonder sometimes. But I'm going to continue to do. I'm still going to go where the spirit leads many a times, but also based on some of the topics that you actually throw at me and what you want to hear. I know the digital ID is one that's very topical, and the abuse of our seniors in our community is very, very topical. But for me to actually come here and hold a conversation on the abuse of our seniors in the community without real life scenarios of what's happening, and I got some assurances that some of our seniors, with the challenges that they're facing, that they're fine. They want to actually speak out on it to make the public be aware as to what's happening. So some of these topics I will be bringing for sure. And as it evolves here, sometimes I will come on live and I want to do some topics, but then circumstances change based on breaking news. You know, and we saw, for those who are late to class, breaking news with the Philippines having a 6.9 earthquake. I don't know if that has been downgraded or upgraded, but information continues to come in even as I'm live here. And, you know, circumstances change. People don't show up, and I still have to deliver a show, and I'm not going to disappoint you. I'm going to deliver. But it does bring context to a lot of the subjects, to be honest. When you have persons who are living a certain life, who are been exposed, to hear it from their perspective, which is why it's important for me to have guests. And I love when I have guests. But as I bring this episode of Sabrina Speaks to a close, you know, I'm going to leave you with a beautiful image, and to just honestly hope to get you into that reflective mode, because we're so blessed to live in a jurisdiction. Right now, we're settling in. Some people are going to work. Some people are coming home from work to be with family. We're still blessed to be in a jurisdiction like the Cayman Islands. We're still united as a front, and we can come here and we can still ventilate. We can air our concerns. We can have topics like this and don't have to be fearful of actually pushing our carts in the supermarket. We still have so much freedoms that are available to us that I think often enough we take for granted, to be honest. But keep the show going, camera. Jabaka, you late. Let me tell you, you got how to go back on rewind. Where have you been? She's gonna be back though, Cameron. I know all of you happy. I'd be happy to come back too because we need that balance, Cameron. We need the Sandy in the morning and me in the evening. So I get it, but you late. I don't worry about you. Melita, thank you so much. You commented so nicely today, and you did give me food for thought. But to be honest, Cayman, we're a journey through law, through faith, through economics and identity today. We have actually been there. We've been like Dora the Explorer. And if you're feeling stirred or conflicted or even convicted, that's okay. I am winding down. So good evening. Winding down. Make it quick. What's on your mind? Hello.
Hello.
Hi, I'm winding down. So
Yes, I see that. I'm
make
just
it
getting
quick.
to tune in. Good evening.
Good
I
evening.
heard that you said something about something pertaining to loud music and stuff. So I'm going to go back
Yeah,
and
you're
watch
gonna
the
have to
show.
watch it because it was really entailed,
Yeah.
and I read the law, and it's gonna blow
Okay.
your socks off. It's gonna blow
Okay.
your socks off. Yeah.
Alrighty. I will. You enjoy your evening and God's willing
Likewise, my love.
tomorrow.
Yeah, man.
Thank
Take
you.
care. Good night.
Bye-bye. Bye. Good
Yes.
night.
Okay. Good night. Yeah, Damien Charles, outstanding for PR fees status should be another topic. That's right up my alley. Of course. Damien Charles, anytime I speak about immigration, I don't want to offend anyone who thinks I'm coming at them. But I am noticing that any topic that I bring up, certain members of parliament get in their feelings. And I'm just going to make it clear here this evening. If there's certain topics that you, the public, want to hear, I am going to bring it up. I am not coming after any elected official. As a matter of fact, if they tune into Sabrina Speaks, they will get ideas. They will realize that I'm for an MP, actually based on educating you, than coming against them. But it speaks a lot about maturity. Yes, their feelings. But outstanding PR fees and status should be another topic. Damien Charles, I would have no problem. And that would come in good with the great immigration reform that we're hearing about. But separate and apart, what does that mean? And that I could probably do that in instead of 2 hours, 1. But based on the feedback and the questions being asked and the appeal system and how it can work and that would be. I wouldn't even need script for that. But yeah, to be very honest, not a problem. You asked for it, I can deliver that. That's not a problem. Chelsea, good night, all. Cameron, yeah. So to be honest with you, as I wrap up, because this isn't just about Sunday trade, this is about who we are and who we're becoming. We say we're a Christian nation. We say that we value rest, reverence, and community, but we also say we want growth, opportunity, and fairness. I heard that just by here this evening. So what happens when those values collide? Do we evolve or do we retreat? Do we face it head on? Or do we remain in the silent majority? That's the big question. Those are the questions. And if our laws no longer reflect our lived reality, because we're saying one thing in law, but we're living something else. If our constitution doesn't protect all faiths equally, if our leaders are too afraid to act for fear of losing votes, then let me ask you something. Are we failing ourselves? Or are we failing the next generation, our children? Because silence may feel safe, but it's not salvation. And tradition without truth is just performance. Performance like on a campaign trail where you fall for charisma instead of facts. I digressed. But we must be brave enough to speak, brave enough to also listen, brave enough to change, not recklessly, but responsibly. So let us stop feeding our own demise by clinging to fear, because that's what we're doing. Fearful of speaking, fearful of voicing your opinion, fearful of just asking the right questions to the right government agency. You're feeding our own demise by clinging to fair. So let us start building Cayman where culture and commerce can coexist, where we just live amongst each other and stop pigeonholing each other based on net worth, based on ethnicity, based on color of your skin, based on political alignment, based on who's friend, based on all of those things, where faith is honored and fairness is lived, not just talked about, where laws reflect not just our past, but definitely our promise. Yes. So thank you for joining me today. Thank you for tolerating me as well. I know I'm missing Sandra, and I know I miss her too. But if this episode has really and honestly moved you, even if you came to class late, let me challenge you to really not let it stop here. Let me challenge you, period. Or maybe it has even made you think and look at it from a different perspective. Talk about it, because the future of Cayman isn't written by the loudest voices, And I heard me say this earlier. It's shaped by the bravest ones. Yeah. Talk about it, because the future of Cayman isn't written by the loudest voice. It's shaped by the bravest. Cameron, what are you saying? You had to walk through the fire to tell us what the hell is like. Welcome back. Oh, you're darn right. And I didn't know. Cameron, honest to God, I didn't know. Damian Henry, the world evolves every day. It's humans that are behind. You are quite right. Cameron, enough of us has been vocal for years, but go ask them individuals who have been outspoken has worked out for them. Not good. I'm living it. But I gotta stop. And we can't stop, Cameron. We can't. Arthur Carter, back in the day, silence gave consent. That's why we take what we get. But now we're seeing, Arthur, where that's changing. And I'm telling you, the silent majority can no longer remain silent. Because guess what? We're seeing other cultures who are coming in, who are letting their beliefs speak at the polls. So sit down, the indigenous. You can change that, and you can make all sort of categorizations of Caymanians all you want in our immigration legislation. You see, when it comes to the polls, that's when you really identify who we are. Cameron says, fear is a question. We know high tolerance for honor for real. Anyhow, let me leave you there. Until next time, please, 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 please stay informed. Don't let anyone take your voice. Stay engaged and stay true to what matters most. And that's you. Love you lots. Until tomorrow, have a fabulous Tuesday evening. That's a wrap for today's edition of Sabrina Speaks. Thank you for tuning in and for being part of the conversation. Remember, the dialogue doesn't stop here. Stay engaged, stay informed, and most importantly, stay empowered. We'll be back tomorrow at 5 p.m., same time, same place, right here on CMR TV and radio, where your voice matters and your truth is heard. Until then, Cayman, take care of yourself and each other.
That's it for today's edition of Sabrina Speaks, where your voice matters, your story counts, and your truth is always welcome. Join us weekdays from 5 until 6:30 p.m. right here on CMR TV as we dive into the topics that matter most to you. Catch the show live or on demand at cmrtv.com. And don't forget to follow us on Facebook, YouTube, and Instagram so you never miss a moment. Until next time, stay informed, stay engaged, and always speak your truth.